Welcome to another episode of the Film Room. I'm really excited to be joined today by Shay Ciezki from over at Indiana University. First and foremost, Shay, how you doing?
Doing really good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm excited to chop it up and get into it and learn more about you. I think first thing I got to ask going into this year, we were already hitting on it before we got in. Like somehow school year's like just around the corner.
Yeah.
Final year coming up. How's that feeling? Kind of knowing like, all right, this is my last year of college hoops. What's that been like?
Yeah, it's definitely a crazy feeling. I don't think it's really hit me yet until maybe we play our first game. But time flies, I feel like just yesterday it was my freshman year, like first day of practice, get like all nervous, scared for what's gonna come. And then, it just goes by so fast. But I'm so thankful to be here at Indiana. So I'm excited for this season.
Absolutely. Going off that too, very different group this season. I was kind of racking my brain
Yes.
remembering like, okay, getting a lay of the land on every roster before the season starts. I was like, damn, you're the only starter returning this year.
Mhm.
So what has that been like for you in summer workouts, practice, kind of taking on that being, a senior leader with a very new group of players?
Yeah, it's definitely crazy, but with Coach Morin bringing in like so many new players, it's like a good chance for me to become a leader and be a vocal leader. That's what I've wanted always. So I'm kind of just embracing that role right now. And she's recruited some of the best girls that I've been around, and I'm just really excited to see how we all mesh during the season.
Absolutely. Yeah. Who's maybe impressed you the most during summer practice or somebody that you're really excited to see touch the court in fall?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick one person, but Lene Beaumont, she actually has been here for
Mm.
full 2 years, but she got hurt last year, so she hasn't been on the floor for a good year. And, she's working back. She got cleared, and I'm kind of just excited to play with her finally, and get our chemistry going.
Nice. No, I'm excited for that. As far as your own individual summer though, what's been, kind of primary focus? So I guess like best way to put it is like after, coming off tournament last year,
Hmm.
settling into this season, what has that process been like in number one, kind of breaking down what your last year was, what you want this next year to look like, and kind of approach with everything.
Yeah. When the season ended, I got together with the staff and kind of just put a personal plan together for the month of May and then like leading up to the summer. And it kind of just looked more so of, me having a bigger role this year, just with a lot of people leaving. And, that's going to be more ball dominant things, coming off ball screens more, late shot clock, having the ball in my hands a little bit more. And that's what we were focusing on majority of the summer, was just ball screen reads, just different stuff like, playing off 2 feet now. Like I'm a smaller guard, so I gotta be able to use my size as an advantage. So just like probably a lot of just like more ball dominant things in the summer, which has been great. I've been able to work with Coach Paul Miller, who's worked with the Fever past couple years, so now he's on staff full time with us. So just being able to learn from him has just been amazing.
Yeah, no, that's exciting because I think that's a lot of what we're going to dive into today is looking what we can
Yeah.
continue doing with the ball in your hands. I want to throw some stats at you really quick just to give you,
Okay, hit
like, I'm
me.
sure, first of all, I guess before we even start, are you like somebody who, like, when you're going through, not that you're like pulling through every box score, but like, are you somebody
Mhm.
who's using stats or like kind of taking that feedback and being like, all right, this is where I can improve. This is stuff I'm looking at. Like, how do you kind of interpret stats when they're thrown at you?
Yeah, I like listening. Like I like hearing stats. I think they help me, honestly. Like I don't get too focused in on it. 'Cause then that's when you think about it during a game, and that's
Mhm.
where everything can go wrong. But after the game, I think it's important to look at, how the team did, how did you impact? Especially with like plus minus, I'm really big on like, how did you impact the game when you were in there, So I mean, I personally like hearing stats because I think you can just grow from it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great mindset to have with it. Yeah, everybody's different with it. I think the hard part is like you got
Hmm.
to find number one, you got to get the right stats. I think that's been
Yeah.
the learning process for a lot of people, but also, okay, can you make sure it's like the right number? Because if you throw 18 numbers at somebody, they're not
Yeah.
what's going to stick,
Exactly.
right? So for you, I think to me these are like the really important numbers looking at what you do offensively, and this is all from synergy. So shot 48.1% on pull up twos last year, which is like
Hmm.
incredibly good.
Yeah.
I mean, with how you guys play at IU, I know Terry's like pretty focused on being very
Yes.
analytically driven, making sure that it's efficient. You guys run a great offense. Like that's a high enough level where like you're replacing, somebody who's like league average on 3-point shooting. And like so
Hmm.
that's really good. 40.6% on catch and shoot threes. Again, really good. And regardless of whether you're guarded or not, I think your numbers are exactly the same. You also shot above 50% on runners and floaters last year, which I think was
Hmm.
really key. And that's a big
Hmm.
part of your game moving forward because I think a big reason I want to pull those up is because so often I think you get told, like, the mid range is bad. Everybody's going away from the mid range. And it's
Exactly.
interesting. So Paige Beckers had a quote about this the other day, talking about how, like, oh, well, it's a lost art. And I think there's an element of, for sure, like people have gone away from it, but it's more
Mhm.
so, especially with the next level, which is what we're talking about, like, to be able to take those shots regularly, you have to be so elite at them that it's worth taking every time, right? And
Yes,
you fit in
exactly.
the zone right now. And that's why it stands out, because if somebody's shooting, 35% on runners and floaters, that's just probably not a shot you want most of the time because it's not going to be
Yeah.
worthwhile. You're doing it at a high enough level where it really matters and hits. It makes an impact. Um, and I think last number I want to pull, which is again a big thing we're going to look at. You shot 31.3% on pull-up threes last year, which
Hmm.
I think it's like right around average for where the Big Ten was at. Pull-up threes are always, it's a harder shot than just shooting off the
Yeah.
catch. But I think, correct me if you feel otherwise, but to me, I think one of the biggest elements for your game to keep growing and expanding is going to be your pull-up three and like continuing to
Yes.
make and take those, particularly take more of them. What do you kind of think on that? What's been your takeaway with that?
Yeah, it's funny that you said that because when I sat down with the staff, going into summer, like that was a big emphasis, especially in transition. That's what we've been
Mhm.
working on a ton. Like coming down, reading the defense, hezzy pulls, hezzy threes. If they're back, get a move, step back and do a three, early in the shot clock. So that is definitely something that I've been working on. And, I'm glad that you noticed that too. So that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love hearing the hezzy too because it's funny because like obviously you have some great moves in your bag, but I
Hmm.
think what's fun in watching your game, but also kind of a double-edged sword, is you are so good at getting to the paint that sometimes it can be like you get into three bodies and then
Yeah.
you're really good at drawing fouls out of it too. But I think that's going to be an element of like when you can really tie in more and more pacing and slowing down a little bit to maximize those moments where you do use your full speed, it's really going to hit.
Hmm.
So I love hearing that you're working on the hezzy and getting more stuff going off of that. Um, as far as like this year as a whole, what are the things you're kind of most excited to showcase in your last year?
Yeah, definitely just being able to score all three levels. Like I said, like my mid range is probably like my baby right now, just because I'm hitting it at such a high percentage. But like, I'm 5'7", 5'8", like I can get to the rim. So like showcasing that, like I have all three levels where, that could take me to the next level, is gonna be like really important for me this year.
Absolutely. As far as basketball goals, just things that you want to accomplish this year, moving into next year. I mean, just kind of like as a whole, what are the things you really want to keep working on and approaching? Obviously, I'm sure it's you want to do it just one step at a time, but is that
Yeah.
stuff you thought about, or what that kind of looks like for you?
Yeah, definitely. I try not to make, too many hefty goals like so early in the season. But when I get down to the season, I start like focusing on like maybe, this year I'm trying to get more analytical with how I approach things and, making sure I'm shooting 40%, I'm shooting 90, 50, 40. That's kind of where
Hmm.
my head is at with analytics and the stat side of the game. But also just, being a leader on the floor. Like that's probably like my biggest thing right now is because we do have such a young team that, I could show them, I could lead by example, and show them, how to win. So that'd be a big part too.
Yeah. So how do you kind of track that and check in with that? Because obviously, like when you're
Yeah.
taking and making shots, that's something you can keep up with, especially if you're shooting on the gun. Like, all right, I know what I've done over the last month. A lot harder to kind of like stay consistent and seeing like, all right, I'm making sure that I'm doing these things, particularly communication wise. So what does that look like for you and making sure you're staying on top of that?
Yeah, so I actually have a journal that I
Love
keep.
that.
Yeah, I started that like I would probably say like my senior year of high school. that I just started tracking everything. So basically, every time I go in the gym with either my trainer or even just on the gun or just like my dad rebounding, I'll, track every shot that I take and see, if I'm taking 50 pull up threes, how many am I making out of 50? And I'll be tracking that. And at the end of the day, end of the workout, like I'll track how many make. So if it's like 400 for 550 or something like that, like I'm able to track day by day. And then over the years, it's pretty cool to see like how I've grown. Especially like with my floaters and runners, I've seen a lot of like improvement with like when I'm tracking like my workouts when I'm doing that. And I track the percentages off that too. So it was actually my dad's idea, which it's awesome now that I have like 3 journals now that I can look back on and see.
Yeah, no, that's really cool because that's not super common. I love hearing that. And that kind of
Yeah.
goes into the next thing I want to ask you about. So I was going back through and preparing for this and just kind of listening to things you've said before. Um, I know from, when you were making your decision on where to go to school the second time,
Hmm.
you were like pretty extensively scouting out teams and like going back
Yeah.
and watching their games. How did that kind of start for you? Where did that idea come from? Because I found that fascinating. I was like,
Yeah.
I love hearing it too because a lot of things that have happened in the portal. Obviously, go get your money, do what you got to do. But like a lot of
Hmm.
people have been driven to the wrong schools or places that maybe don't necessarily fit them. And it feels like that was a really big focus for you, is
Yeah.
finding a place that can really fit your game and plays in a way that you like.
And yeah, and that was a big part of which school I was choosing because going into college, I never wanted I've always wanted to be out of school for 4 years. So when that didn't happen, I knew that the next place that I was like going to be at, like that was going to be my home, until I graduate. So it was really important for me to find the right people, the right style of play, and my dad and I one night were like, let's just watch games. So I remember it was like 6 p.m. when it was like a Sunday night, 6 p.m. And we went through maybe like 8 or 10 games, like up until like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. And we just watched every game. And at that point, like, Coach Moore was recruiting me as like a 1-2. So I was watching Chloe Moore McNeil. I was watching Sarah Scalia and seeing what they did in the offense and what roles they played. And then we would write that down and compare it to the other schools we watched, and we would just do it for weeks and weeks up until I made my decision. So that was a really big turning point, I guess, in my decision.
Yeah, no, that's awesome because like it's honestly like literally doing your own scout.
Yeah.
Um, so it's interesting too, kind of expanding on that. I know obviously choosing Indiana. I know Michigan State was high on your list too. I believe you took a
Mhm.
visit there. Um, both teams that play 4 out 1 in motion
Mhm.
offenses. So what about that specifically was attracted to you as a player?
Yeah. I knew I wanted to play like a fast paced game. It just fits with my style and being able to play freely, not having to overthink too much and, being such a play based program. And I know both programs were great with that. And a 4 out 1 in was exactly what I was looking for. And just being able to play off each other.
Yeah,
That was a big thing. And, I like to play free. Like I said, like with all 3 levels, I love that Indiana never put me in a box from day one. They're like, yeah, like do what you got to do. And a big thing was Coach Morin loves pull ups. And that was like one thing that really gravitated, me towards them. She was like, well, yeah, like if they're in a deep plug, like, of course you got to pull up. Like you can't, like it's wide open. Why not take it? So that was like one of like the first conversations I had in her office when I went on my visit. And I was like, okay, yeah, like I think I'm on the same level with her. So
yeah. No, I'm really loving all this because to me, I think you're exhibiting like a really important part of your own development, right? Like
yeah.
I think to me, I said something about this to somebody the other day, but like self-awareness to me is like the biggest aspect of player
Yes.
development because to me, you can be the most talented player ever, but if you're going to a spot that doesn't want to play you the way you want to play, or you maybe
Hmm.
don't mesh with that, or you have an idea of who you are or what you're capable of doing, and you don't necessarily have the stats to, or not even stats, but like the footage to back it up. If you don't necessarily have that in your game, like you got to be able to find places that give you the ability to do that, but also take the time to make sure you're doing that, figure out what you can get better at. So I really appreciate that, and I think that mindset's really important for the next level, like
Yeah.
adaptability, being able to see how you fit in is really key.
Yeah, of course. And then I like always try to like give advice to like younger girls that are like looking at colleges now, like juniors in
Mhm.
high school, where it's like, money is part of it now, but it's like at the end of the day, you have to love basketball and you have to love where you're at. And like you have to do research. And I feel like that's such a big part that's missing a lot of the times.
Mhm.
Like you got to do your own research.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So 2 more questions before we get into the film. Number 1, are you somebody who watches a lot of the W? Like, are you kinda just, like, very basketball is always on for you, or you're just kinda mainly focused on college and where you're at right now?
Yeah, I would say a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I think I get so wrapped up in college ball that I'm just like on go always, like workout morning, workout afternoon. All right, well, let's get some shots up at night. But I'll always have the game on. And I always love looking at like highlights and stats and seeing who balled out. And it is cool because now Mackenzie Holmes is she's playing I think she's playing Tuesday, I think.
Mhm.
So we're gonna go up there, watch her play. I went to a handful of Fever games. We're like an hour away, so that's been awesome to see. Um, yeah, it's been really cool.
Nice. Well, I have some W film pulled up too for some comparison stuff that I wanna show you,
Great.
but, lastly, I know we've talked a lot about your hezi, your pull-up, kind of improving on those things. What would you say are the things that you need to improve the most in your game in the next
hmm
year or so, or things that you feel are a really big focus for you outside those things that you want to be able to continue growing on and know are going to be important for you for the next level?
Yeah. First thing that comes to mind is my pace of play.
Mhm.
I think right now it's I'm quick, I'm fast, and I think I could use that as an advantage, which I have been. Um, but I think it throws off timing of defenders when I am changing my pace, especially getting downhill or getting to the spots that I want to get to. Change of pace is a will be a really big part in this next year. And then it's something little, but playing off 2 feet. I think we've kind of stepped away from it, from at least from the women's game a little
Mhm.
bit that I've seen, and I think that it's getting bigger now. Like on the men's side, obviously you see Jalen Brunson doing it a lot. That was big at Villanova where he was at. But playing off 2 feet, especially for a smaller guard like me, was going to help me a lot.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, staying as efficient as possible is
Yeah.
so key. And I love you mentioning Jalen Brunson because the footwork king, somebody who's great at
Right?
using
Oh my
his leverage
gosh.
in every way, shape, and possible. Because I like something you mentioned earlier was, your size can be an advantage despite being smaller. Like, okay,
Yeah,
you use that as leverage in some ways. It's just kind of figuring out how to weaponize it. Um,
exactly.
so I'm gonna pull up the film now. As we're going through, I want you to kind of tell me what you're seeing, what you're thinking. Obviously, I'm gonna like give a little bit of lead in on stuff, but it's a conversation. Kind of want to see
Yeah.
how you're thinking through things. The first thing I actually want to start off with is your defense, because to me, I think,
Mhm.
particularly with the W, so much of being able to stay on the floor is being able to do as much as you can to be a neutral on defense, right?
Yep.
Um, so starting off, let's look at some screen defense because a lot of stuff that you're going to have to deal with is ball screen defense. So kind of against let's even start with Minnesota. What was kind
Mhm.
of vibe for you going into playing Minnesota this year?
Yeah. So I personally love playing at Minnesota.
Yeah.
I usually have some pretty good game, pretty good games there. We scouted a lot for them. It was one of our bigger games. We always say that on the road it always means more to us.
Hmm.
Um, and we knew that they were going to set a lot of screens. Like we knew their game plan going in. And I remember working on, screen defense a lot in practice. Like we would do that for like the first like half hour, 45 minutes, like every day leading up to the game. So that was something I was definitely like dialed in on.
Definitely. So starting here, obviously popping under, getting back. What are you
Yeah.
kind of feeling going into this possession? Obviously guarding a much bigger ball handler. What's
hmm
kind of feel in this one?
Yeah. So I knew Tori 14, she has a pretty good shot. So,
Hmm.
going under really wasn't a thought in my mind. So as soon as I heard Caroline, my post yell screen, the first thing I do is try to get up in their body. Like I try to chest them up and so I can easily get my left foot over. I try to get my left foot over every time and swing
Hmm.
it. So it's just an easier angle for me to cut her off. And that's what I did. And just keep my hands up the whole time.
Definitely. Yeah, no, because I think, like you're saying, I think you do a good job getting over and fighting back in front. It's just continuing to me, I
Exactly.
think
Stay
one of the
down.
big things for you on defense is, like you just said, staying down
Yep.
and dictating even more. I think you're good at like playing through an initial action, but it's continuing to string that other stuff together, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
so right here, yeah, this one, I think, have you ever watched the Celtics play?
Yeah, a few times.
Okay. Are you like super familiar with like scram switching?
A little bit.
Okay, so I think like Celtics are the team that's gotten probably the best at scram
Yeah.
switching in basketball, and to me, I think that's going to be something that I want to see. I mean, obviously, it always depends on team scheme and everything, but like I think that's going to be big for you is continuing to like what if I do get posted up, if I do get a big on me, how do I approach it? How do we kind of work through that, right? So like as you're kind of seeing this and feeling it out, what are you kind of feeling in this?
Yeah. So when we were scouting, we were always, it's always been like this, but if I get a post player in the post that I'm fronting and
Hmm.
just working my butt just to try to get position and hold them off as long as I can for some help to get there. But definitely when she sealed me back in at that time, I knew I was caught a little bit, that I just needed to work a little bit harder to get around that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because exactly, like I think you guys weren't a scram team, but I was just thinking through in my head, particularly for next level, exactly like you said. How can I make this as difficult as possible to
Yes.
give time for help? Because, like, especially if you watch the Lynx play, I mean, the Lynx are the best team in the league right now, obviously, but it's
Hmm.
off what they do defensively. Like, they play a couple small guards, but they're great at, okay, playing help, playing communication. Like, that's so much of defense, right? Another ball screen possession. I love you getting out front here at first, like just beat somebody to the screen, and then just kind of staying in general. Like when you're, especially again, like playing up against a taller guard, like somebody like Amaya. What do you
Yeah.
think is kind of most important to trying to take them out of a screening action?
Yeah, I'm honestly just trying to like get up and pressure as much as I can. If they use the screen, they use it. We don't really allow rejects,
Hmm.
but just trying to get up in her space as much as I can, make it uncomfortable for her. She has a great pull up game. And I think it was like the fourth quarter. It was a little too late, but we started going under on that.
Yeah.
Um, but just trying to make it as hard as possible and just keep staying in the play.
Hmm. So right here too, again, more screen defense. This is a really good possession from you that I like a lot, actually. I think like just in general, like you talked about earlier with getting the left foot over,
Yep.
and like so much of being good on defense is just anticipating and getting to something before the guard can. Because if you wait a half beat for the screen to actually be set, that's an easy
Yep.
just dribble drive to the middle. Right here, you do a good job cutting it off. And also just like we talked about, being low, having hands up, being able to make this difficult. Like
Hmm. Just being active. Yep.
yep, make somebody work. So right here too, particularly with Ohio State, they run like just kind of like this very nasty off-ball action pretty
Yeah.
constantly. I think you're knowing what I'm talking about instantaneously. What going into that? What was like? Okay, how do we want to defend this? How do we want to approach it? Because obviously, I mean, you guys end up winning this game, which was pretty big. But
Hmm.
like, what was that like? Knowing okay, we got to figure out how we're going to defend this.
Yeah, so we're very scout specific. Going into the game, we know a lot of tendencies of each player, and we play the player off what coach tells us.
Hmm.
So it's a team defense, but it's also player personnel defense that we like to call it. So like right here, like I know that Gray is a great shooter, so we knew that we were up in basically every screening action. I was two-word body the whole time, just trying to fight around screens, get over everything, active hands, high hands. And you can kind of see like Chloe's already telling me, get in her body, get in her body.
Hmm.
So, and like, that's what, like, right here, like, she goes back door. But, like, I mean, we'd rather take that than her getting an open three. So
Absolutely.
we already kind of knew exactly what we wanted to do going into the game. Um, and then even like with Sid helping here, like we kind of knew that going into the game already.
Yeah, no, I like you pointing that out because the Scott specific aspect is so important because I think Chance was shooting like Oh, she was shooting over 40% from
Yeah,
three before this game.
exactly.
Um, and yeah, I mean, you cover the back door quickly. She passes the ball out. Defense resets. That's all you want, right?
Yeah.
So I love that because that's an important part of it. Yeah, no. Again, for anybody who hasn't watched Ohio State play, that off-ball action
Ooh.
is just like it. They run it like every other play. It's
Yep,
very killer. They have a ton of great players off the drive, so it's so hard to defend.
it is.
Um, right here too, defending up on an island. Actually, again, really good the possession from you. What is most important to you when you know, okay, I'm on an island, I don't have help, being able to keep somebody in front?
Yeah, honestly, like I want to be able to say like, this like, feet, eyes, hands, but like honestly, I think personally it's all mentality. Like if
Yeah.
you want to guard, you can guard. Like I mean, it's all grit. So, it's just like staying in front is a big part of it, yes, but like also not falling on hezzies, not being a dumb defender,
Hmm.
honestly. Like, just gotta sit down and guard. Like that's really like that simple. And I think that I have a mentality of that where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna sit here right now. Like I'm gonna sit down on every move you got, and I'm just gonna eat it. So, that's a big part in how I play like island defense, I guess.
Hmm. So right here too, I wanted to talking about off-ball defense.
Hmm.
When you're guarding a player who's not necessarily a shooter, I think that's something you dealt with playing against. I can't remember Minnesota's backup point guard name off the top of my head, but she's not a shooter. Ditto
Hmm.
with you guys treated Jaden Simmons as not a shooter, which I think is obviously correct. But when you're guarding somebody who's not a shooter, I think it can be a difficult proposition of like I want to be in help, but also like
Yeah,
okay, what if this player ducks in and cuts? So watching through this, how would you kind of approach it differently?
yeah. I think probably right now, like knowing that Simmons wasn't a shooter at that point, and we were scouting Grace a lot too,
Hmm.
because just she's just such a great post player. But
Yeah.
um, at this point, knowing that Grace is more of a threat, is just to get in the paint, try to get some digs, try to make it hard, make it hard for her to get a shot up, trying to pass it out, but then you got to make sure that you're not losing your man in that whole process, right?
Yeah.
So just keeping my head on a swivel, moving my feet. I was ball watching a little bit, but just making sure that I see both at all times.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think you're laying into the difficult part, right? Because
Yep.
Grace is incredibly difficult. She's the player you want to be stopping. You need help in the lane, but also like as soon as she gets above the free throw line, I think like that's where okay, you probably want to get a body on, and I think that's an area where you can keep getting better at. Like we talked about, stringing possessions together. Yeah, just like being able to get a hit on somebody and kind of keep them off the glass is big.
Yeah.
Almost done with defense. So right here too, like we talked about with some of the leadership and communication stuff. Not that this is indicative of leadership, but like when you're playing a team in transition like this,
Hmm.
what do you think watching through this possession?
Yeah. Like off the bat, like we got to stop the ball like way sooner.
Yeah.
Having Cambridge come down and like having nobody stop the ball right now, like she should have already been picked up,
Hmm.
right? And now we have two to the ball, who was that? Three. She's coming down, like backdoor, Chance is going backdoor, like that could have easily been fixed if we just picked up the ball a little bit earlier.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think it's definitely that to me. This is just like a communication one. Like
Yeah.
being able to call out as a team, like who are we picking up, when are we picking them up, like and like you said, stop the ball early. Especially, I mean, this team loves to get out and run as fast as
Love
possible.
transition. Yep.
But then I think right here you see, I mean, this is a great possession from you. Defense to offense, doing everything that I think stands out for you. When you shoot the gap, play fast, use your hands, and then get into the rim. Like that's what we want to
Hmm.
see.
Yeah.
Um, so getting into offense now, I want to start with some of the stuff that I really like. Like I think your ability as a finisher, I think you honestly undersold it a little bit. Like your ability to finish at your size is really, really tough.
Thank you.
Like obviously Lauren, incredibly difficult defensive player of the year. Um,
Hmm.
especially when you're coming down using a drag screen. Like, what are you thinking through your head? Like, how I want to attack this, get into this finish.
Yeah. I definitely wanted a higher drag just to bring
Hmm.
Lauren out a little bit. Because I remember the first half we were setting lower, so it
Hmm.
was hard for me to get down to the paint and try to create off of that. And especially in transition, you have the post running kind of on their back of their heels. and just trying to stride out here with, crossing up and then striding out with my right, and just kind of throws off her timing a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that was like a big point, especially with like bigger post players. They want to block it so bad, especially when they see a smaller guard. So just being able to do anything that throws off their timing is big.
Yeah, no, exactly. Especially when you get the left foot up and then going back right,
Yes.
that's great. Like, and I love what you said too about getting her on her back foot, because if you can keep a defense in, playing an early offense, I think is one of the areas where you really excel, and like being able
Yeah.
to play against a team that is kind of tilted already is so helpful in making stuff
Hmm.
easier. Obviously, right here too, that floater really tough. Um, there's like, I mean, there's not a better option than this in this one, in my opinion. So I love that. Right here, this is when we're talking about some of the pacing stuff. I love this possession from you just in general, because I think, and we're going to dive into it in a second, but I think they like being able to pull it back and be like, all right, here, this is what I can do. This is what I can work towards. So what are
Yep.
you seeing when you get down that makes you want to pull it back to the left and get to where you're going?
Yeah. So right here, we don't really have anything. We were trying to set a double rub.
Hmm.
And it just like, it wasn't really working. And a big thing for us at Indiana is just to keep your dribble alive. There's nothing wrong with keeping your dribble alive. And I think that's like not talked about enough. It's like you're dribbling too much, get the ball out of your hands. And it's like, well, just there's going to be something there. So just switching courts simply just throws the defense off a little bit. And then Chloe clears out corner. And that's automatically I see an open side.
Hmm.
So I knew I was rejecting as soon as I saw Chloe go. It's open space, pull up, and that's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah, no, this is tremendous stuff. So as soon as talking about empty space, what do you like about playing an empty side?
Yeah. Oh, I love it because I think at that point it's a two-man game with a ball screen.
Yep.
So someone's got to come up, someone's got to help. If they don't, it's a shot. If they do, it's going to be a roll. And even this weak side. So if this post player steps up, I still have my post. So there's always something open on a weak side. That's why I love reject so much. It's so hard to guard. Like even as a defender, I'm like, like I can't get a reject.
Yeah.
It's too hard to recover. So like just offensively, that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Yeah, no, I love that, because exactly, like, literally just the idea of Sid coming up to set the screen has the defender like already somewhat frozen, then you time it perfectly to get into this. Um, so going from that to a couple more finishes actually before we get into the next play. I think this is one of my favorite plays from you, because I think it just kind of exhibits a lot like what you can do. You can get to the paint, you can make good reads, but then if you're left open, you're still. I mean, this is just awesome finish right there.
Hmm.
Using the up fake, that's like we talk about with being a smaller player, using that as an advantage. This is a great example right here.
Yeah, and I know first quarter I had a couple drives that I think I got like blocked one time or something, but I knew that they were going to bite a little bit more on everything. So just making sure that I had shot fakes, I had counters to different things was going to be big for this game.
Definitely. And then right here, just step through against length. Obviously, again, Amaya's a tremendous defender. I think Minnesota as a whole, they don't really play small. Like they have pretty good
No, they
size
don't.
across the board.
Hmm.
So it can make things a little bit tough on offense. But like being able to take this and turn it into a win is pretty big. But I also think this kind of goes into one of the, like we talked about with it being a double-edged sword, because like this is a really tough spot to be in, and you're able to get out of it very often with really good footwork and good finishing. But I also think being able to find ways to keep, like we talked about, playing with pace and ways to get out of traffic is big. Because right here, so what are you feeling coming off the screen right here?
Yeah, so I knew they were going to switch, and just I kind of have a bigger defender on me, so I knew I had to play either off 2 feet, try to get her down low, um, yeah, and get her to bite a little bit. And I
Mhm.
knew that probably their post player was coming over again, trying to, yeah, kind of create
Definitely.
that angle and get
Yeah.
that, yeah.
So you do a good job. Obviously, draw a foul here, but like I think one of the things is not it's not bad, because again I think getting deep in paint is great, obviously. But the difficult part too is, okay, I'm also deep in the paint and I can't necessarily go anywhere with this.
Yep.
So like, how would you approach this one differently, or what do you kind of think through watching this one again?
Yeah, I definitely see a lot of space on that baseline right now.
Hmm.
Just keep probing.
Yeah,
So I would probably say keep probing out. Honestly, if I have that shot after I probe, I take that, or I have Chloe on the wing for open three. Um, and like I said, like keeping your dribble alive is super important. Because now if I probe, who's taking me? And I think that's probably
exactly.
like going to be a miscommunication on Ohio State. Like you take her, you take her. So I think probing right there would have been a great option.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought it up because to me, I think one of the biggest things that you can develop this year is like Nash dribbling, like getting really
Yeah,
good at, so, kind of balancing, taking some of those tougher shots, but also probing, getting the ball back out, continuing to move it, doing more point guard things. Because I think, exactly like you said, if you keep going baseline here, instead of looking to finish, Caroline's right there sitting the back screen, Chloe's open on the wing, and then the ball's pinging around, open shot. Like,
exactly.
yeah. So I love that. Because again, right here too. Well, actually, I want a different play. I messed up the order on this one. Right here. What are you feeling off the catch right here?
I definitely had either baseline from the rip or just a shot. You
Hmm.
know, try not to overcomplicate some things. I think just being able to see the game a little simpler is something I can grow at. I think I had a wide open three, so that's the best part of my game. Might as well take it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think there's room for you to get even more up, and even like you said, attacking baseline there too. I know you really like going to your left off the rip, which you're very good at doing. But I think right here, like she's giving you
Yeah,
the right.
take it.
Yeah, 100%. Continuing on that line of like rim finishing and just finding ways to Nash, because like right here too, I think this is a great example of like you are such a threat in transition, particularly getting into the paint. But I
hmm
think to me at least, Emma had your number in this game, just like getting vertical, making it tough. Um, I think especially when you have a bigger wing player who can do that, it makes it really difficult. But that's why I think this next possession showcases like, okay, when you do slow down or when you do make other decisions, like this is great because you engage two defenders right here and then just kick it.
Yep,
And then you end
definitely
up,
definitely learned off that first.
yeah. And then you
First
end up
one.
getting a great play off this, great drop off. Um, like exactly. So like finding ways to weaponize your speed because they know like, oh shoot, she's coming to the rim. We got to defend it. Just getting the ball out. Love it.
hmm
Another great example too. Tell me what you're thinking coming down this when you get to the wing. Know that you have somebody a couple of steps off you. What are you thinking here?
Yeah. So I mean, right now I see a 3-on-2. It would not it's not an advantage by any means. So I was kind of waiting for another player to come down. I know our post was coming down. So someone had to take her.
Hmm.
Exactly. So someone had to take Lily, and I knew that Skip was there. I believe it wasn't a great pass. I don't know.
That's not bad. Like it's not
It's
like
not
perfectly in the
terrible,
pocket, but it's yeah. Well,
but yeah.
I like this play a lot because, like you mentioned, post coming down, so has to get taken. I like that you wait a beat because so often I see players try and throw this skip and then player sinks down and takes it. But you
Yes.
notice that her back's turned, she's not paying attention, get the ball over. Like it doesn't end up a make, but like I just think it's a good read because to me, I think instead of trying to attack this, slowing down, waiting with pace, I think is good.
Yeah, and I think like another thing too is like knowing who you're playing with. Like I knew that we had Sid Shooter on the wing.
Hmm.
She was gonna shoot that thing, and then it helps when you have Yarden coming down. Like someone has to take that other shooter.
Yep.
Like that this doesn't work if Yarden isn't a great shooter.
No,
So
absolutely.
they have to pick and choose, and it's exactly what happened.
Definitely. So this is to me one of the getting into the next part. I think this is one of the things that is to me one of the bigger aspects for your game. Do you know what I'm going to say before we even get into it?
Ooh, no, I'm
Okay.
interested
If not, no
to see
worries. But
actually.
so, what do you think watching this? What do you kind of just think of this possession in general?
Yeah. Automatically I see an open side a little bit, and then I see a switch. Um,
I don't
it's
think, yeah. So I do want to say, like, getting when you get down to the post looking for the cutter, I don't think that's the wrong decision necessarily. But I watched this, I'm like, right here, like I
I
don't
would
know
have
how
loved
you
it
feel,
far out.
but yeah, I think you could. One of the things I really want to see you improve on as a pull up shooter, particularly, is going to your left. I
Yeah.
think going to your left is there's like a ton of room where teams, honestly, I don't know if you felt it this year, but going back through and watching stuff, I think teams were pretty comfortable just saying, we're just going to go under a screen to try and stop her drive going left.
Hmm.
And I think that there's a lot of room for you can really punish teams for doing this stuff because you have a
Yeah.
huge gap off this right here. Um, like just a
Right here.
quick pound dribble into your shot.
Yep.
So as another example right here too, because this is like literally like coming up into this, um, and they're automatically saying we're just going under. Because
Going
I
under.
think I
Yeah.
watched this and I'm like, it's like again, you can get where you want, and I think it's so tough because I watched a bunch of possessions and it's like, all right, there's so many places where
Hmm.
she still goes left after getting the under and gets to the basket and makes a great play. But thinking like next level stuff to me, like the amount of space you have going this way, like again, with the pacing, being able to slow things down and use that shot, I think there's real room to really again punish teams for playing you this way.
Yeah.
Um, and
Just keeping
then
it simple.
yeah,
Definitely.
no, absolutely. So that gets into the next area that I want to hit on too, because to me, I
Hmm.
think an area you can continue to really hit on that's going to be big for you is the pocket pass, because I think you
Hmm.
showed some real growth with it this year. But like, I actually think your passing has room to be even better than like kind of assists indicate right now. Like
Yeah, I
in
agree.
terms of your total creation, like there's a lot that you're leaving on the table. Sounds harsh, but like you know what I mean. Like I
Mhm.
think there's
No,
just room
yeah.
growing with that. Like um, I like the idea of getting to the pocket pass here, but I think when you combine it with pacing and working into stuff, I feel like how do you okay, sorry, I'm talking too much. How do you feel with
Push
this?
back. You know, I would say like there's definitely like room for me to grow here.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't think I set like I'm in my head, I'm thinking about throwing a pocket pass when I know I could set up my post player for an easy layup.
Yeah.
Like that's or something that she can create and not sending her into a 6-7 post, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that right there, I wouldn't say would like be a great timing on that. Probably like still, I would probably say right there, like engage Lauren a little bit,
I
like
agree completely.
have her fully commit to me and then dump off. Or if she doesn't commit
Yeah.
to me, she goes back to my post. All right, now it's a layup or a floater, like we are talking about.
That's a great exactly. That's exactly why I brought up this clip first because 100%. You get Lauren's engagement for a second, but as soon as Lennon's attached again, she's back, and that's
Yep.
just really difficult to finish. So I like the idea. It just the execution. It always comes down to like
Yep.
making that stuff work. So the next possession, what do you kind of feel going through this one?
Mhm. Um, yeah, probably the same thing. Let's see. See, I had her because I engaged the big stepped up, and I had Lily on the roll.
Yep. But then that's why this is. I mean, I just have marked down pick and roll perfect on this one because to
Yeah.
me, this is exactly what we're talking about. You get everything that
Mhm.
you want out of this. Just off
Yep.
the screen, quick, hezzy to look off. You make Kiki take one step, and then it's open. And like that's exactly what we're talking about. Either you're getting the one step to open up the layup or to open up the roll, and like being able to
Yeah.
just again continue to attack with patience is big time. Um, but I want to ask you too in terms of playing a team like USC that's
Mhm.
very long. They play a lot of pro style defense. What was that like for you, particularly the second time around? You guys, I mean, took them pretty much wire to wire.
Yeah. Um, Definitely different the second time we played them. I think we had a better mindset going in, um, just with their athleticism and their length and what we needed to do. We wanted to work the ball a lot more, you know, get it side to side a little bit, make a move, and then attack. And that's why we started doing those like pinaways and
Hmm.
then coming downhill and making them choose. Like they have to either guard the guard or the post, and you know, start playing more of like a mental game rather than a physical game. Um, but it was yeah, that game was it was close all the way up until the end. So it was a tough one.
Yeah, no, definitely. But showed a lot of good stuff in that.
Yeah.
Last one I want to hit from your clips right here. I think see some good stuff. Reject here. I think for you, one thing that you can keep getting better at too is I think your offhand passing can keep getting better. Like particularly
Mhm.
when you were driving baseline, like we're talking about. I love the idea to pass this here again, draw two. But I think that's one thing that stuck out in going back and rewatching your games, like being able to attack more with using that left hand. Because I think there are some obviously it's interesting because like every coach feels differently about it,
Mhm.
right? Like not everybody wants you to jump out of bounds taking a pass, but particularly here when like you've got two players engaged
Yeah, I have
and
to.
you're flying out of bounds, just yeah, getting more comfortable with whipping that ball.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
if this is even a little bit more on the money, this again, like we're talking about,
Shot.
wide open shot.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, I point this out. Sorry, I don't mean this to sound like negative, but I think it's just when I
No,
watch a
it's
game, there's
awesome.
like when you keep refining some of these things, I think we're talking about like getting like substantially better as a playmaker because you can
Yeah,
watch some players and it's like, all right, maybe they don't have the vision, they don't have the handle, they don't have the scoring gravity. But I watch you and it's like, I think you have all those things. It's just continuing to iron out some of those things. Um,
definitely.
so I want to go through some possessions for a player who I think you can take some things from. Natisha Hydeman, who's backup point guard for the Lynx, I think is somebody you could take a lot from. So going through, let's just talk. Actually, shit, did she coach you at Penn State for a year?
She did. That's my dog.
Actually, I just realized that right now.
When you
Uh,
said that, I was like, "Let's go." That's my
yeah,
girl. She's
um,
awesome.
yeah, no, she rocks, and she's been huge for why Minnesota has
Mhm.
been so good. So let's, as we're going through, just tell me what you're thinking every
Yeah.
time on each possession.
Man, that pace right off
Mm,
the bat. Like she was reading how the defender was playing her post. She was reading her defense. Yeah, all that. All she had to do was slow up a little bit, right by John Quill Jones.
yep, absolutely, and I think exactly what we're talking about. Like she's one of the fastest players in the league, but you don't necessarily know it watching her play until she takes that one step. It's like, oh, she's gone.
Yeah,
Like instead of just attacking it straight up, like I'm going fast right away, being able to use that is huge.
exactly. Mm. I'm thinking she could play off two right there, maybe.
Yeah, playing off too, and also I think like watching this one, I'm like, this is sort of like we just talked about, like engaging two defenders. Maybe
Yeah.
like how do you kind of like look at this from do I nash this? Do I find a way to attack baseline and maybe my post is able to keep rolling and I mean not rolling, moving in space and that opens her up. Like I
Yeah,
think
I even see Dejanay. So if T comes off, she comes off this drag, and she sees Sabrina pull in, have that left hook pass to Dejanay, which
yep.
is probably tough, or even like a pro baseline to her too.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, because I think that's the hard part. Like I think especially when we're talking the pros, like player like Emma Meesman, 6'5", very good
Yep.
footwork, good defensively. Like even if it's a quote unquote good shot or you're capable of getting to it, like being able to decipher like, all right, is this the moment to take it? How do I kind of approach this? Like it's a really difficult point. This is
Hmm.
another point. This is something that I think Tisha's gotten really good at that I think could be a big part of your game too.
Mm.
Just quick pass and go. Like I
Yep.
think particularly working with like it doesn't even have to be with a big. Working with anybody, I think like knowing, okay, I got the most I'm getting out of this. Get off the ball and move. Like I think that's really good stuff to be able to keep working on, particularly because like again, you have like the quickness and the vision of a one,
Yeah.
but the skill set of a two to really be able to play off the ball like that. And I think that can be
Hmm.
really big for you. So right here, she doesn't end up finding the big, but this is exactly like we're talking about with the Nashing. Because I think this is like I don't know how much you've seen of Dominique Malonga play. She is like just
Nuts.
wild with her
Yep.
wingspan and what she can do. But exactly, like once you get right here, you get back. I'm looking at the post directly and like that's open.
Yo,
Quick
yeah, that
switch
bounce.
off that,
Bounce
like
pass.
it's right there. And then just finishing again with pacing, like
Yeah, that little
put it to
hezzy right
rest as
there.
soon as you get it. Yep,
Yep, got that post to stand up a little bit.
yep. All right, so that's all I got for film. I know I actually I kept you a lot longer than I intended to, but
No, you're good.
I had a
No, this
lot
is
of fun going through
awesome.
it.
This is awesome.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to hit on or close out with before we get out of here?
No, I don't think so. I think you hit on everything, and it's awesome just to talk ball, for once. So
Yeah.
that was fun.
No, I appreciate it. To everyone listening, of course, listening and watching, of course, keep up with everything that Shay and IU are doing. Somehow, season's right around the corner
I
already.
know.
Should be a good one.